Most people think weight loss is only about what you eat. Count the calories, watch the carbs, avoid the breadbasket. But they are completely wrong. And here's what nobody tells you. It turns out that the specific sequence of your dinner plate is the hidden dial for your metabolism. If you eat your carbs before your fiber, you might be accidentally switching off your fat-burning hormones for the entire night, even if you ate everything else right. You tracked your macros, you skipped the dessert, you drank the water, and your body still stored fat. Not because of what was on your fork, but because of the order it arrived. So tonight, before you sit down to eat, stay with me for a few minutes, because by the end of this, you will never look at a dinner plate the same way again. But before we continue, welcome back to the channel. We're still growing, so even a single comment from you would mean a lot to us. Thank you. Here's a question that sounds simple, but has a surprisingly strange answer. When you take a bite of food, where does the real decision-making happen? Most people point to the stomach. Some say the brain. But the real answer is the small intestine, and specifically the first few inches of it, a section called the duodenum. Think of the duodenum like a customs officer at an airport. Every single thing you eat has to pass through this checkpoint. And that customs officer doesn't just wave things through. It scans what's arriving, sends urgent chemical signals up to your brain and your pancreas, and essentially decides, are we burning fat tonight or are we storing it? Here's the twist. That decision gets made within the first 15 to 20 minutes of your meal. And once it's made, it essentially locks in your hormonal response for the next 3 to 4 hours. You cannot undo it mid-meal by eating a salad after your pasta. The chemical memo has already been sent. This process has a name. Scientists call it gastric emptying, the rate at which food leaves your stomach and enters that small intestine checkpoint. Think of it like a drain in a bathtub. Some foods widen the drain, letting everything rush out fast. Other foods narrow it, slowing the flow to a trickle. The order you eat in determines which drain you get. And this is where most people completely mess it up. What most of us do instinctively, mixing everything together on the fork, alternating between a piece of chicken and a forkful of rice, actually creates a chaotic rush of mixed signals to that checkpoint. Everything arrives at customs at the same time. The officer panics, insulin floods the system, and your body, reading that flood as a sugar emergency, starts storing energy rather than burning it. Let me tell you what's really happening at the molecular level, because this is where it gets genuinely fascinating. When carbohydrates, especially refined ones like white rice, bread, or pasta, arrive at the small intestine first or simultaneously with everything else, they break down into glucose almost immediately. Glucose hits the bloodstream like a fire alarm. Your pancreas responds by releasing insulin, which is like a padlock. It locks glucose into your fat cells for storage. The more glucose arrives at once, the more padlocks get deployed. The more padlocks, the less fat your body burns for the rest of the evening. Now here's where the science becomes genuinely jaw-dropping. Researchers studying the mechanisms behind modern glucose-regulating medications, the kind that have transformed weight management over the past few years, found something remarkable in their clinical data. These treatments work in part by slowing gastric emptying. They make food move through your system more gradually. Sound familiar? That is exactly what strategic food ordering does naturally. Your fork is a tool that nobody handed you the instruction manual for. Until now. So what does the instruction manual actually say? It starts with greens, always. Here's what nobody tells you about vegetables. They are not just nutritious, they are structural. When you eat fiber-rich vegetables at the very beginning of your meal, before anything else touches your stomach, the fiber forms what scientists describe as a viscous mesh in your small intestine. Viscous means thick and gel-like. Imagine pouring honey into a fine net. The honey slows down dramatically. It can't rush through. That viscous mesh is your body's natural speed bump for sugar absorption. When glucose from carbohydrates eventually arrives, and it will arrive because most dinners contain carbs, it has to pass through that gel-like fiber barrier before it can enter your bloodstream. The fiber physically slows it down. The result is not a spike, it's a gentle, gradual curve, a slow release instead of a fire alarm. Your pancreas releases insulin calmly, proportionally, and when insulin is calm, it is not deploying padlocks aggressively. Your body remains in a fat-burning state instead of a fat-storing one. Research published in the journal Diabetes Care found that participants who ate vegetables first experienced meaningfully lower blood sugar glucose spikes than those who ate carbohydrates first, even though they consumed the exact same foods. The only variable was the order. The researchers noted the difference was substantial enough to have real implications for how we think about meal structure, not just meal content. Your body was keeping this secret the entire time. The sequence mattered just as much as the ingredients. Now, the question is, what vegetables work best? Raw or lightly steamed non-starchy vegetables are the gold standard here. Think leafy greens, broccoli, cucumber, zucchini, bell peppers, asparagus. These are dense in insoluble and soluble fiber, which together create the most effective mesh. Starchy vegetables, corn, peas, potatoes, contain too much glucose themselves to serve as an effective opening barrier. Save those for later in the sequence. Give yourself 3 to 5 minutes after finishing your vegetables before moving on. Let the mesh establish itself. This pause is not wasted time. It is construction time. After the fiber mesh is in place, the next layer arrives, and this one does something almost elegant. Protein and healthy fats, your second course, trigger the release of a hormone called GLP-1. Think of GLP-1 like a traffic officer standing at the intersection between your stomach and your bloodstream. When GLP-1 shows up, it raises its hand and says, "Everyone slow down, one car at a time." It tells your stomach, "Hold on, take your time, don't rush the next batch of food into the intestine." It signals your brain, you're getting full, you don't need to keep eating. And critically, it tells your pancreas, stay calm, don't overreact when the glucose shows up. GLP-1 is in fact the same hormone that those modern weight loss medications are designed to mimic. Your body was keeping this secret all along. It already knows how to manufacture the effect. It just needs the right sequence of food to trigger it. Lean proteins, chicken, fish, eggs, legumes, tofu, are the most powerful GLP-1 stimulators when consumed in this middle position. Healthy fats, avocado, olive oil, nuts, seeds, compound the effect by further slowing gastric emptying. Together, they create what nutritional researchers call a hormonal buffer, a second layer of protection that sits beneath the fiber mesh and above where the carbohydrates will eventually land. Here's what this buffer actually does to your body's timeline. Without it, a meal might fully empty from your stomach into the small intestine in 60 to 90 minutes. With protein and fat in the second layer, that process stretches to 2 to 3 hours. That extended timeline means blood glucose rises gradually, over a longer window. Small, manageable doses of glucose entering the bloodstream, rather than one catastrophic rush. This is the part nobody talks about. Most nutrition advice stops at what to put on your plate. It tells you to add protein, eat healthy fats, load up on vegetables. And that advice is not wrong, but it is radically incomplete. Because if you add all the right foods and still eat them in the wrong order, you are neutralizing their benefit. The protein is there, the fiber is there, the healthy fats are there. But if the carbohydrates got there first, the hormonal window has already closed. You built the wall after the flood already came through. And there is a physical feeling to this that you've almost certainly experienced without understanding it. It's the difference between eating a balanced meal and feeling satisfied for 4 hours, versus eating a bowl of pasta on an empty stomach and feeling strangely hungry again 90 minutes later. That hunger is the glucose crash, the aftermath of the fire alarm. The protein-fat buffer is how you prevent it before it starts. Your job at this stage is simple. Eat your protein and healthy fats slowly, mindfully, chew thoroughly. Give your stomach roughly 10 minutes with this layer before the final course arrives. And now, the piece that makes the whole sequence click into place, the carbohydrates. Here is where everything clicks, and where the conventional dinner table is almost universally backwards. Bread arrives before the meal. Pasta is the main centerpiece. Rice is the base. In most dining cultures, carbohydrates lead. They are the opening act, the main event, the foundation. And metabolically, this sequencing is the equivalent of pouring gasoline into an engine that isn't running yet. This one mistake cancels everything. It doesn't matter how clean your protein was. It doesn't matter how many greens were on the plate. If the breadbasket came first and you reached for it, which, let's be honest, almost everyone does, you have already triggered the insulin spike. The fiber mesh never got to form. The GLP-1 signal never got to rise. The customs officer at the duodenum already received the flood, and the fat storage padlocks are already deployed. One simple habit repeated at dinner after dinner, quietly unwinding everything else you did right that day. But when carbohydrates arrive last, after the fiber mesh, after the protein-fat buffer, something genuinely different happens. The glucose from your pasta, your rice, your bread has to travel through a carefully constructed biological obstacle course before it ever reaches your bloodstream. The fiber slows it at the intestinal wall. The hormones from your protein are already signaling calm to your pancreas. Your stomach is emptying slowly. The customs officer at the duodenum receives a trickle, not a flood. The result, measured in clinical studies, is significantly higher post-meal fat oxidation. Oxidation here means burning, like how a fire consumes wood, except the wood is your stored body fat, and your metabolism is the flame. After a carb's last meal, that flame burns noticeably brighter in the hours that follow. One study from Weill Cornell Medicine showed the effect was observable up to 3 hours after the meal ended. The question is, does this mean you can eat unlimited carbohydrates if you just eat them last? No, quantity still matters, but the strategic sequencing meaningfully blunts the metabolic impact of a modest portion of carbs in a way that no amount of calorie counting addresses. You're not changing what you eat, you're changing the environment your food arrives in. Think of it like this. A cannonball dropped into a still pool creates a massive wave. The same cannonball dropped into water that's already full of foam and thick material barely makes a ripple. The fiber, protein, and fat you ate first are the foam. The carbohydrate is the cannonball. Same ball, radically different impact. Here's the part where this either becomes a life-changing habit or a fascinating thing you forget by Tuesday. So let's make it stick. At a restaurant, this is simpler than it sounds. Order a side salad or vegetable dish first and eat it completely before touching anything else. Ask for the bread basket to be brought with or after the main course instead of before. At an Italian restaurant, eat your antipasto greens before your pasta arrives, not alongside it. At a steakhouse, eat the vegetables on the plate before cutting into the protein, then finish with any starch on the side. At a social dinner, nobody will notice if you eat your salad first. They're not watching your fork. And if they are, you now know something they don't. The timing between layers matters too. Aim for roughly 3 to 5 minutes between finishing your vegetables and starting your protein. Then another 5 to 8 minutes between protein and carbohydrates. You don't need a stopwatch, just don't rush. Eating fast collapses the sequence. Slowing down is not just manners, it is metabolic strategy. The long-term picture, for those who practice this consistently, is striking. Improved insulin sensitivity, meaning your body needs less insulin to do the same job, which means fewer fat storage padlocks over time. Reduced late-night cravings, because the glucose crash that usually drives them has been smoothed out. Sustainable weight management, without changing what you eat, only the architecture of how you eat it. And here's the reality check, because this channel doesn't deal in magic. Food sequencing is a genuine research-backed lever, but it is one lever among many. Sleep, stress, movement, and overall dietary quality all fit in the same engine room. Biology is not a small factor, it is a foundational one. But your choices, your sequencing, your attention, that's the part biology is waiting for you to act on. You've just been handed the instruction manual for a tool you've been holding your whole life. Tonight, you get to use it for the first time. Try it once. Vegetables first, protein and fat second, carbohydrates last. Feel the difference in your energy 2 hours after eating. Notice whether the late-night hunger shows up or doesn't. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment with your biggest sequencing challenge. Is it the bread basket at restaurants? Is it family dinners where everything arrives at once? Is it the habit of mixing everything together on your fork? Tell me your specific situation, and let's figure out the workaround together. Because the best eating strategy is the one you can actually use at a real table with real people in real life. The order matters. Now you know the order. Use it tonight.